Well, today is a terrific Tech Tuesday, as Ismail Akwe names it, and he'll be joining us here in the studio just a few moments from now. And on that, it leads us to our grand angle where the book Digital Kenya, an Entrepreneurial Revolution in the Making is a publication analyzing Kenya's world-famous ICT sector and the economic factors in the country, entrepreneurs, trends and innovations that have shaped the East African tech hub into what it is today. It is also the first of its kind to offer key insights into a single African country's technology story. We'll be speaking with the author of the book, Dr. Tim Wise, here on the Grand Angle today. Good morning, Dr. Wise. Your research was to offer insight into an African country's technology story. Now, why did you select Kenya in particular?
Our interest was to move this deliberately away from a Pan-African approach and really focus on only one country. We had the feeling there were a lot of people that were making claims about Africa in general, but we really wanted to hone in on one country and understand in depth sort of and how the ecosystem come to be, what the culture is like, the entrepreneurial culture, and what people are aspiring to. And the next step then for us would be to move into a comparison and see how does that relate to Ghana, how is that different to South Africa. As Kenya got connected to the global fiber, there was a jolt in entrepreneurial activity, and that was very different from Ghana or other countries in Africa. So you really saw a spike in entrepreneurial activity as soon as the connection costs went down, and the government ran several programs, and that's sort of what we thought was really interesting. And it's sort of also the hub for the whole East Africa in terms of entrepreneurial activity.
Tim Wise, les startups fleurissent.
And startups are blooming. Startups across the country, the continent are blooming, both in the digital field as well as in agriculture and even in service providing. How do these initiatives contribute to development?
So that's an interesting one. And there are several scholars that have actually pushed back and said the whole Africa Rising narrative is nothing more than a hoax. And what you see here is an entrepreneurial wave that is gaining traction. So we can't really talk yet about the actual economic output because a lot of these startups or ventures also across Africa have to sort of gain their full momentum yet. So if you're asking, if you're evaluating a car based on the first 10 seconds of its drive, then you don't get a good feeling for actually what the car is about. You should take a longer drive. And I think here it's the same thing. We should allow the different ecosystems to flourish and to develop their full momentum, sort of shift to global aspirations, to creating global technology, global solutions, and to trying to figure out a way how to do that in Kenya, where venture capital, human resources, and many other stuff are not available. And that becomes the challenge, So how do you create successful technology that the whole continent can benefit from without having all these resources readily available as someone like Mark Zuckerberg, take that example, has?
Now, Tim, with the challenges that you just mentioned, how has Kenyan tech startups overcome some of them to be successful?
Interestingly enough, what you sort of realize is that within Kenya, you have a very distinct way of becoming an entrepreneur. Be the same in agriculture and if you do real estate, so there's sort of a deeply entrenched way of how things ought to be done. And then within technology entrepreneurship, there is a very different sort of culture of how things should be done. In order to be successful, code switching, for example, so you need to be able to relate to the local market. You have to have deep contextual market knowledge because the customers are not the same in every market. And then you also have to, at the same time, be able to talk to a global audience. You want to be able to talk to the main investors. So if you only have local domain market knowledge, it won't be enough.